Hello all. I just finished watching the first episode of Series 2 of Loki, and it's fine. Pretty unoffensive, really. I am going to do spoilers, and it's going to be a pretty quick review because there's not really a lot to talk about. The last series ended with Loki arriving back at the TVA, and there's a giant statue of He Who Remains, or Kang as we know him. Turns out this is the past. Nobody knows him, and he's time slipping. From that position, he time slips to the present. Morbius and the hunter woman, sorry I can't remember her name, are talking about the new branches in the timeline and how they want to let it happen because they don't want to murder billions of people. Understandable. Loki keeps popping in and disappearing. It's quite an unpleasant thing for him to experience, but he seems to be fine. He's a completely different character though. It's really weird. He ends up looking like a scared little rabbit. It's not the Loki we know. Morbius and the hunter get summoned, and then we get the scene of three powerful women talking while one man sits there asleep, one man stands up pouting, and Morbius hangs around like a spare part. It's a bit of an obvious scene, really. They decide to let the branches grow. One judge decides that she wants to send the pouty man to go and find Sylvie. Loki turns up, shows them a mural of He Who Remains, which he found in the past, because he was in the same room in the past. Loki and Morbius then go for a wander to meet Short Round, who's in some weird basement area that no one ever goes to. And there's some banter backwards and forwards, and this goes on too long. It serves a purpose of explaining how Loki can stop time slipping, because you're not supposed to be able to time slip in the TVA, because it's suspended outside the flow of time. And I'm presuming at some point they'll explain why he's time slipping, because that's not explained. Loki time slips to the past, so has a conversation with him in the past. Morbius stays in the present and has a conversation with him in the present, and they come up with a plan, both the past and the present. Loki comes back to the present and they have a plan, and it's a deeply unpleasant plan, which involves the possibility of Morbius being skinned and Loki being torn apart. Honestly, the plan didn't make much sense to me. Why either of those things would happen didn't really make much sense to me. The banter between the three of them was quite entertaining. The banter between Loki and Morbius is always good, and there's some funny moments in there. It just went on too long. So they start the plan in action. Morbius has to put something by this timeline collator, but apparently is failing because there's too many multiple timelines. But Morbius has to go out to it to, I don't know, to put this thing in this machine and point it at the timeline. Loki is supposed to do something when this dial goes green. Loki gets zapped to the future. He sees everyone running around panicking. For some reason he leaves where he is, even though that's where he knows he really needs to be. He goes off somewhere. I don't know where he was going. And we get another oft-repeated element in this episode of people running or walking down corridors. Here's a phone ringing, and there's Sylvie trying to open a lift door. Mobius goes outside, being battered by this time storm. He sets the machine in motion. Short Round has to close the doors because if he doesn't, the whole TVA will be taken out by this issue. He tells Morbius to come back and Loki's lost. In the future, Loki dissolves, and then suddenly he pops out of the tangled timelines, hits Mobius, and they're knocked back into the TVA. I didn't understand any of that. I didn't understand why Loki suddenly appeared. I didn't understand what the plan was in the first place. I mean, it was cool, it was wacky, it was weird, which I suppose is what you want. And it wasn't so offensively confusing. I just kind of let it drift over me. But as usual, they have no clue how to do cliffhangers. Because if they wanted to do a cliffhanger, you'd have ended with Mobius being battered by the time storm of the multiple timelines crashing and Loki dissolving. There's your cliffhanger ending to the episode. No. That gets resolved, and then we end up with the hunter woman watching a load of other hunters go through a time portal and saying, I wonder what that is. They're clearly not going after Sylvie. That's the end of the episode. Such a lame ending again. And then the after credit scene is Sylvie in one of the variant timelines going to get a burger, having a look around herself thinking, I want some of this life. So yeah, inoffensive is probably the best word. There were some nice visuals. I laughed a couple of times. There was some fun banter and there's some great charisma when Loki finally became Loki again and stopped being that scared little rabbit. But he still doesn't feel like the Loki that we've seen before. Tom Hiddleston does his best, and at the end of the day, he has charisma by the bucket load. But yeah, it just washed over me. Nothing special, nothing terrible, nothing particularly notable, to be honest with you. And I do wonder how accessible all this stuff would be to the normal audience. As a comic and sci-fi fan, it's all fine to me. You know, multiple timelines, time jumps, alternate realities, multiverses. Yeah, I get it all. I don't necessarily like it, because if you've got a multiverse, then who cares? You know, if 3,000 Captain Americas die, it's fine. You've got an infinite number of them still left. If you can time travel, nothing matters, because you can just put it right. They're dodgy areas for the MCU to be drifting into, to be honest with you. Still, that's my thoughts, really. It was fine. That's all I can say. Oh, I forgot. There is a moment where, once again, Loki is demeaned compared to Sylvie, because you can't have an episode without that happening. One of these days, I hope to be more positive about a Disney Plus show. It would be nice to have some sort of return to form. Anyway, I'll leave it there. Have you watched it yet? What did you think? Did you have a similar feeling to me? Thank you very much for listening. I'd appreciate if you would like and subscribe if you've enjoyed the video. And in the meantime, peace out.